Hey, Russ Cochran here with another episode of Small Church. Today we're going to look at marketing the church and social media. And I know that for some people the word marketing is a negative connotation to church. We are in no way implying that marketing somehow is a way to get people saved or that it is the mission of the church or it's the focus of the church. We're just going to talk about social media and marketing and how it can enhance relationships so that we can share Jesus Christ with people. So today with me is Samantha Wilson. Samantha Wilson handles books for her church and also, when I say books, financial books, bookkeeping with her church, and also social media for her church. And so Samantha, welcome. We live in a different world today. Also, Samantha, how old are you?
24.
She's 24 years old. So she understands this realm a lot better than we do, and I've seen her work. She also does some social marketing for some businesses in her area as well. So, Samantha, how important do you think social media is in reaching people, especially outside the church today?
I think it's an easy way to be able to get into people's pockets, if that makes sense, to be able to connect with them.
Yeah, by that you don't mean financially.
Not financial pockets, where they have their phones. Their phones are always connected to them. When they're sitting down at an airport, they pull out their phones to be able to look and see what's going on. When they're waiting at a doctor's appointment, somebody always has their phone, and they're always engaged in some type of media. And that's where social media is really important in the church. And we're not marketing the church necessarily. If you don't like the word marketing, it's evangelism. Showing them
outreach, yeah.
Showing them the way to live through some social media things.
Yeah, because I mean we've seen it where people have been on television preaching the gospel, and so you got to think about this as an outlet or an avenue for the gospel to go out.
For people to know the heart of your church.
And for the most part, I think people my age and older, they think, well, is this the way we're going to try to reach the young crowd? But really, statistics say, especially on Facebook, you're seeing the 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and 70-year-olds on Facebook even. And really, if you want to reach the younger generation, Facebook's not the place to do it.
No, and they say the generation about 30 to 50 is probably for Facebook, where they can get the content and the information. Twitter is for that generation. That's the millennials, where they can get a small bit of the conversation and the details. And then Instagram is now for Generation Z, which is younger than the 90s babies.
Mid-90s, yeah.
To where they can just get the experience. They just want to know what's going on with a quick glimpse. And then if they want more information, then they'll go to those other platforms and those other media outlets.
So you've mentioned a couple different platforms. Let's talk about them. There's Facebook. Facebook is good for what?
Facebook is where we tell the experience and give them the details. So you'll be able to have a picture, and then you'll be able to connect your announcements and tell them things like when your event is going to happen. You can place events on Facebook where you're targeting certain audiences. If you have a group that's meeting and they're moms, you can reach women that are between the ages of 18 and 35, and you can target them specifically.
For a cheap amount, like 10 or 20 bucks even.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're targeting people outside your church. Okay, and then also Facebook Live is so cheap, you can Facebook Live now your church from an iPhone or from an Android. I mean, I don't know who would want to use an Android, but possibly somebody. But you could Facebook Live your church. I don't care if you have a church of 2. If somebody has an iPhone or an Android phone, they can connect to Facebook and Facebook Live you, right, to the whole world.
Absolutely, and it's too easy for your congregation to be able to share your content, and that's another way to be able to reach people. And if you have 1 or 2 or 3 people in your church that you have like a social media team that every time your church is posting, you share, and then you get more engagements, which is what the social media platform is all about, is the engagements, the likes, the shares, the comments. Just creating that culture of the church is trying to reach out.
So the church that I pastor, we on Sunday mornings are usually 200 or below. And we've had sermons that we've gone Facebook Live where 800 people or more have watched them. And you want to talk about expanding your reach and people who who are in the community who say, hey, I watched you this week, or people who I grew up with back in Florida have watched the sermons that I've
Right.
preached. And so what a great way to expand the ministry, even though we're in Copperas Cove, Texas, where nobody knows where that's at, but people in Jacksonville, Florida, people in Iowa, people in Tennessee are able to watch me because those are places I've lived, people that I know. And then also just people say, hey, this is a good sermon. They place it on theirs, and then other people watch it.
Right, and Facebook has this algorithm where it's almost top secret, but they really, really, really encourage you to be able to talk to other people and it to be important to them. So if people are sharing, Facebook now thinks that it's important to them, and they will make it to where other people and their friends will be able to see it more often. So just having that constant engagement between the pastors and your staff and your congregation within Facebook and also Instagram just shows that content is important to that person, so they want to give it to their friends.
Also, let's talk about sometimes some rules maybe for Facebook. If a pastor has a Facebook page, some wise, using some wisdom, some wise rules for Facebook. I know that for your situation, you kind of oversee what some of the pastors are posting and different things. So give us some guidelines, like maybe what's some things pastors shouldn't be posting about, what should they be posting about, because Facebook is also a way for people in the church to get to know you.
Absolutely. One thing that I heard a while back is social media is a place where your congregation gets to kind of have a view of your life on the outside of the church. The people in your church want to see what's going on, and they want to see you living the life that they want to live. For example, they want to see you taking your wife out on a date, or attending your school or your students' school activities and things like that. One thing that I think is pretty important is not to post political things on your Facebook page, just because that can start a conversation and some controversy that you don't want to.
Well, and maybe you're trying to reach somebody on the other side of the aisle for Christ, and they will shut you down. I never post political. I have my political views.
Absolutely.
And I'm strong in my political views, but I don't put it on Facebook because I want to reach people for Christ first. And if that becomes a hindrance, what good has that done?
Absolutely. And another thing that I think people who aren't aware of social media, everything you do on social media is trackable. If you like a page that has any kind of profanity on it, somebody else somewhere can see it, and that's where you can lose your witness. So don't like funny comments that have inappropriate language or any kind of pictures that can kind of be provocative, just because somebody somewhere can see it and it can damage your reputation.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Twitter a little bit. Twitter is a little bit different. You can put those instant quotes. I know on my Facebook page, everything I post on Facebook actually goes to Twitter, but it may not show the picture right away. They got to click on something. But Twitter is a great place for the church to even encourage. I encourage the people in our church to quote me on Twitter, even quote me on Facebook. So how do we use Twitter a little bit?
Twitter is for the small details. There's a very limited amount of characters because they want you to be able to get it all in one place at one time without having too many details. So Twitter is really good for sharing content that you enjoy, but not necessarily having a conversation with somebody. You can mention somebody in a comment or in a tweet, and that will be able to have some engagement, but it's not a bunch of engagement. It's just information, straightforward.
Yeah, I went and I posted a thing on Facebook today about what I did this morning, and one of the things I did is I had an oil change, and then that went over to Twitter, and then I got a comment back from Sears Mechanics saying, next time check us out for your oil change, which is kind of scary. So
Right.
but the point is people look up things based on a subject or a topic that you may have tweeted about.
Right, and that's just too easy. Anytime somebody in your church engages in some part of your social media, respond back. Even if it's, we really enjoyed your service today, and then your church says, oh, thank you for coming to church today, and that just creates a culture of talking on social media and knowing that it's important. I think that the social media aspect is being able to talk to your congregation more than the 2 hours, if you're lucky, that you get them a week.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I'm going to put Instagram and Snapchat kind of in the same box because that's mostly about pictures, correct?
Absolutely.
And the generation probably, I'd say about 22-ish, 23-ish and below, they really love this, especially your teenagers.
Right, so Instagram is about the experience, being able to capture something and making somebody want to be involved. They say Instagram is all about stopping the scroll, meaning somebody will just sit there and they'll look, and if it catches their eye, they stop and they look at it, and that's what you want to do as a church, is to be able to stop the scroll and then have them read the rest of the details. Some people don't like to put very much effort into their Snapchat stories or their Instagram and Facebook stories because they disappear after 24 hours. But as a pastor, we spent as people in ministry, we spent hours and hours and hours for teaching and for sermons that only last for 20 minutes.
That's right, that's a good point.
We'll be able to have 24 hours of being able to sit on the internet where things really don't disappear, to be honest, but they'll be able to sit there and people can screenshot them and look at them later on. And so just being able to create good content on these social media platforms where they seem to disappear is very important still.
Now let's talk about one other that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's YouTube. I believe I saw a statistic that said 80% of millennials said if there's one thing they can't live without, it's YouTube. They want YouTube. I mean, there's actually on YouTube now you can actually watch TV and a lot of other things, but they just sit there and scroll for different videos. And so why not have a YouTube page with your sermons
Right.
or topics, and things that you can talk about?
And just like we're sitting here, you'll be able, as a small church pastor, you could ask a Sunday school teacher to come and sit and do an interview with you. And you could post it up on your Facebook page. And then you can also post it on your YouTube channel.
By the way, we record this off my iPhone 8. I believe I have an iPhone 8. That's
Right.
what we record this off of.
Right. And so just being able to do something, do it well. It doesn't have to be expensive to be done well. There are tons and tons of resources. For example, like there's canva.com where it has templates to where you can have social media graphics. There's Unsplash, which has some stock photos that don't have people's faces on it and things like that, which is another important part. As a church social media person, social media management, I don't like to use pictures of faces who don't belong to our congregation. And that's another important piece.
Well, yeah, it's funny because sometimes you'll see churches, they want to make themselves look like they're multicultural.
Diverse.
So they got a picture of somebody who's black, somebody who's Hispanic, somebody who's white, and then you show up and it's an all-white church.
Right.
I mean, it's almost kind of verge of lying, isn't it?
They really, the outside world really wants to see real content. And it doesn't have to be perfect content. They want to see things that are real. Real and genuine. And that's really where the generations that are coming up, that's what they want to be able to see is real things from their pastors and their church staff.
So what are maybe some things I haven't touched on yet that you would encourage churches about when it comes to social media?
I think it's important to start even if you're uncomfortable. And you don't have to start on all these platforms
Absolutely.
at once. Find something. If you think Facebook is going to be more important and better for your church, start on Facebook. Find a younger person to be able to help you to engage in those types of communities, which is what really these social medias
Which could
are.
actually be a discipleship type
Absolutely.
opportunity with a young person.
And find that person and be able to share with them the heart of the church. That way they can show the heart of the church through your social media platforms. So you don't have to be perfect, but do it with excellence. And then be able to just be genuine in everything that you do. Don't make it about just announcements. Make it about things that you're learning in your church. Pull good sermon quotes. And don't make it to where it's just a bulletin board. It's more than that. It's a way of life.
Pictures and videos of things that have happened.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we look at all of this, again, we're not saying in any way that social media is going to grow your church and you'll become a mega church through this. We're simply saying it is another avenue, just as face-to-face is, an opportunity to share Jesus Christ and the witness of Jesus Christ. Again, there's nothing magic about it. There's nothing that's going to just make everything happen. But it's a tool in the toolbox that we can use for ministry. Just like, there's some people that say, well, social media is of the devil. Well, there was a time where they thought microphones, and most of us use microphones in our church, and lights, and whatever it is that we use, just make sure you use it for the glory of God, and that the purpose is that this is not the answer. Social media is not the answer to growing your church. It's a tool on the way to help growing your church.
Absolutely.
All right. Samantha, maybe some people out there might have questions for you. So how can they get a hold of you on Facebook? Maybe that's the best way for
Yeah,
you.
so Facebook, they can just send me a message. It's Samantha Wilson from Coppers Cove. And so if you just want to find me on there, or you can find me at Social Sam on Facebook as well, and you can contact me through there. And I have a heart for being able to just grow and reach the small church and the small churches in their community. So just send me a message, and I'd be more than willing to help any church that needs it.
All right. Thank you, Samantha. That's another time with Small Church, and I hope you enjoyed it. And again, maybe you found that it doesn't have to be as hard